Hey everybody, my name is Johnny and I am a writer, sometimes a lefter, and I like to come up with mental health related stories that involve comedy or really dire consequences. But most importantly, I'm somebody who likes to write. It's not easy, there's not a lot of us. Writing is like homework you assigned to yourself and nobody's checking it when you're done. So you kind of have to have a lot of confidence to do something like that. It's like getting up on stage and performing, but there's no stage or audience and nobody asked for it. Yeah, that's kind of how writing is for me, at least. But I feel like there's just so much fun and fulfillment that comes with writing that I wanted to kind of share with you guys, like my perspective, and hopefully it makes you like it a little bit more. So why don't we finish what we started? I think it's usually a vulnerability thing. It's just if we don't have it perfect, we want to rush it so we don't have to worry about if it's good or not or being judged on the actual details it comes with. It's like going up on stage and performing, but not necessarily giving it your all, so that way when people hate it, it's not personal. Sometimes we can write and get the confidence later, and that's kind of what I'm gonna talk to you about. Let's list things that you can come up with that don't necessarily even need to be finished. Titles. And just come up with a title. Like any titles, 20 title ideas, whatever. Sometimes that's all you know. Details. Maybe you just have an idea for a scene between two people. Maybe just two perspectives really interest you. Or characters. Maybe it's just somebody you think is really funny, really intense, really interesting. Just write down one detail about them. The next day write another detail. The next day write another detail. Then your details are like, wow, I should make a story out of all these details. The most important thing you need to be confident about writing is something finished. Because if you have something finished, you're like, okay, I wrote. And most of the people don't get there. And that's okay. I was watching this seminar on self-love, and a big part of it was building self-trust, giving yourself a goal, and actually following through with it. That is all we're kind of talking about today. And writing is the medium where you can do that the best. 1, write down ideas every day. I'm not going to tell you to write for an hour every day. I'm going to simplify it even more. You just have to write one idea every day. Give yourself 10 minutes to write each day. Sometimes, and I'm even gonna let you cheat. You could just rewrite the ideas you had earlier, but you have to rewrite the ideas you had earlier. During this process, you give yourself a chance to be impressed with your own ideas, even if it's a couple days later. Like, we always get that feeling that we're like, oh, I came up with that. That's pretty interesting. Give yourself a chance to say that to yourself. Let's say you go a whole week and you only do ideas. That's good too. It's good if you go a whole year and only do ideas. Give yourself a little special day at the end of the week where you go through all these ideas and just start eliminating a couple that don't resonate with you. Sometimes I would have ideas that I would just sit for 10 minutes and just rewrite the ideas. Sometimes I wouldn't add anything. Sometimes I'd even take away stuff. Just make it a sentence. So take your idea, let's say like an idea is really good. It sticks out to you. You really want to do something about it. It's a skit, it's a script, it's a book, it's a graphic novel. It could be anything. Sometimes you'll have ideas where you're like, oh, I can't fit this into a sentence. That's good, that's writing. That means you got rid of an idea. You rewrote something already. So once you get a sentence that impresses you, then you try to write a beginning, middle, and end. I've had so many stories that are just beginning, middle, and end. I never wrote them. They're not scripts, they're not books. They never even happened. And I know that sounds like I'm gaslighting myself, but it's true. And sometimes I would even spread that out even further, where I would just write the beginning one day. Sometimes I even start with the end. And then as long as I'm writing a little bit every day, you're your own boss, and that's just as important. So you have to be a good boss, a good employee, and a good writer. When you're a bad boss but a good employee, you're miserable. When you're a bad employee but a good boss, you don't get anything done. I've been both at different times. Now the only way I can get it done is if I'm both and a writer all the time. This is something I do with TV shows. This is the quit while you're ahead method. And this is something I personally do because when I am writing, I need to be inspired. I need to keep going, I can't stop. I learned the way to maintain that the same way I like TV shows. Every time there's an episode that I really like, I don't watch the next one because I'm too excited to watch it, and I'm like, let me save this for tomorrow. And then I think about it all the next day. And I could easily just watch the entire season through and forget about all the middle points. When you start to get really into it, but you feel yourself running out of ideas, that's when you stop. When you find yourself getting to the peak of excitement, cut yourself off. Let yourself have something to think about for the next 24 hours before you get to write again. And sometimes you might even give yourself another session because you can't go to sleep at night because the idea is in your head. Am I opening up without meaning to? Writing is just like a relationship. If the ideas you put down, that's just like kind of holding hands and everything, then you finally write down your sentence, that's like a first kiss. We're not dating because we want all the steps of a relationship in one day by tomorrow. That just feels like you lose the magic of everything. I do this method because like I have like 20 ideas and I just write like 20 ideas every day on top of my writing, and then sometimes at the end of the week when I'm just throwing stuff out, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know I'm already working on 3 books, but this is exciting me. Then I just take an extra step and then I get stumped, and then I'm like, okay, that's not as exciting. And then I go back to my other book. And then sometimes I'll go back to it again later and then get re-inspired by what I did so far and be like, oh, maybe I should finish the story. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that some of this inspired you. Now I'm going to go play with my cat!